And thank you for joining us for this special presentation of Protect Teens. It's a program through the Idaho Attorney General's office, and we have brought in 4 experts on the matter of cyberbullying and cyber predators. We're going to go ahead and let the 4 panelists introduce themselves.
I'm Sam Fowler from the Boys and Girls Club of Magic Valley.
I'm Todd Rudner, Detective, Twin Falls Police Department, ICAC Task Force, Idaho.
I am Attorney General Lawrence Wasden, raised here in the Magic Valley.
And Owen Robbins, President KRS Systems, Downtown Twin, and geeking out.
There we go, Computer Whiz. We'll call you a Computer Whiz, Owen. So, gentlemen, I know the DVD that we have viewed can be frightening, especially for those of you who are parents. And even if your children are not in that teenage yet, I know with me, I have a toddler, but it's still scary to think about what the future holds. And with all the technology, of course, comes so much more responsibility as well, not just on a parent's end to protect your children, but on the child's end to know what to look for and know when to bring parents or law enforcement officials in for help. Now, I just want to talk about how real this is of a threat here in the Magic Valley. So, Sam, we'll start with you. You work with teens, with boys and girls, through the Boys and Girls Club, obviously. How do you see this threat play out in your day-to-day life?
You know, there's not a day that goes by when we don't have some sort of issue we have to deal with because of something that somebody has posted or some sort of inquiry, whether it be kid to kid, and sometimes it's a little bit greater than that, and I'll defer to these guys or the experts. But the truth is, there's not an online issue that hasn't found its way on a ground level, even at our local Boys and Girls Club.
And Sam, I like how you mentioned that this is a daily battle that you guys are fighting. And with that, I want to turn to the Attorney General. I know this is a program that you and the entire office there is passionate about. Why is it that you wanted to get involved and bring this information to parents and kids in our area?
Well, a number of years ago, I was asked to go to an event in the state of Washington by the Washington Attorney General. And she did a live demonstration. She brought in a detective from King County and a live demonstration on the internet. Within a few mouse clicks, we were in contact with a person who was very obviously a predator. Verified that because of the, I would say, various and nefarious things this person was expecting and demanding from us. And we were a whole audience. He believed we were a 14-year-old girl. And it was pretty shocking what I saw. And I felt like I had to come back and I had to do something about that. So that was the genesis of the Protect Teens program. I came back to my office, folks, and we sat down and figured out a way to try and prepare a program. We did the best job we could within the resources of our office, and actually have a much more updated version now that are addressing things like cyberbullying and sexting and texting, trying to get educational tools into the hands of parents and children, which is the way to arm our children with some measure of safety.
And one thing that's interesting to me is, as I mentioned, technology is always evolving, always changing. Texting, sexting, words like that, cyberbullying even, weren't even in our vocabulary until just a few years ago, and now we hear about this type of thing more and more often. Now, Owen, I do want to turn to you. One thing we were talking about before the show started was that cell phones, and there's other electronic devices, but I'll let you get into that because you're the pro, that are just as dangerous as a computer. Tell us about that.
Well, that's right, Danielle. When people think about cyber bullying or pornography and predator and abuse, they think of the PC or the laptop, but this is a major computer also, the smartphone. And there are ways that parents can monitor what's going on the cell phone. Right now, there's software that at some point, some AGs may make illegal, but they're not at this point that can be purchased. If you go to Google search, it is to track my smartphone. You'll find a variety of companies that will sell a service from $150 to $59 per year, where if you have your hands on your child's phone for just more than 10 minutes, you can download secret software that then you go online and you're able to log in with your username and your password, and you can see everything that's going on that phone. You can read all of the email, you can read all of the text messages that are going in and out. You can be alerted when the child goes outside of a GPS area that you can find, and you can also see all their texts. Frankly, you can even turn the microphone on the phone without them knowing it and hear the conversations going on.
That's a little frightening. I'm just glad they didn't have this technology when I was a teen. I'm just kidding. We're joking about that. Now, Sam, let's go back to you. When it comes to something like this, how big of a responsibility is it for the parents or a trusted adult in the child's life to really be on top of this and know what's out there to help protect that child?
If you're a parent that has allowed your child a Facebook account, Twitter account, or anything like that, and you don't have access to that, I'd question what you're thinking, because we were all teenagers, we remember, and teenagers act out, and they say, well, you're invading my privacy. No, there's no privacy invaded, because the core issue for the teens that we come across, they want to know that mom or dad actually does know what they're doing and what's going on, and they may act out, they may shout, they may do whatever teenagers do, but at the end they want to feel safe, that mom or dad actually know what's happening. So we encourage parents all the time, Boys and Girls Club, we do seminars, say, look, you need to know what your child's doing online. And especially on the phone, the whole texting, sexting issue is becoming an increasingly bigger issue every day for us. So.
And Detective Rudner, I know even sometimes when a parent is involved in doing their job to keep their child safe, there are times when cyberbullying or sexual predators do come into play. What's your experience with that?
Right now, I think we've made a lot of headway in the Magic Valley, in part to working with different organizations as well as with the Attorney General's office, reaching out to schools and clubs. We were at critical mass at one point with the cyber tips coming in of children exposing themselves online, and 90%, 85%, they were using their cell phone, their smartphone, and then it was synced off the home computer. I've seen a little bit of a drop in it right now, which I'm hoping I could attribute to parents and friends, neighbors, everything from PSAs, public service announcements, warning the children not to do this and warning parents what to look out for. Everything from what they're doing with their phone at night to behavioral changes within the child.
And another thing is, I know a lot of times people say, you know, we live in a safe community. There's no real threat here. We're not a big city. We're a smaller town. We're a safe town. While that is true, you know, lower crime rate obviously here in the Magic Valley than we're going to find in a big city. But still, Detective Rudner, how real is the threat based on what you see?
It's very real. There's not a day that I am not keeping 100% busy. Everything from the sexting, the cyberbullying, to the child predators. What's making it difficult right now is the child predator online is learning how to cover their tracks, and they're also very adept at picking their targets. They have a game plan, and there's several pieces of information on the internet to teach child predators how to act, how to behave, what to say, what not to say with the children.
And I remember last year you actually brought in a pamphlet about this thick that was actually written to help child predators cover their tracks, like you mentioned. How in the world can we fight this sort of these sort of people and this sort of crime?
Let me jump in here. And a couple things I would comment. First of all, let's not even limit this to Twin Falls. We have had contact with children through this program, through the Protect Teens program, and predatory activities are occurring in Gooding and in Rupert and in every small community you can think about, because the internet is pervasive in our communities. It's not just Twin Falls, it's not just Boise, it's not just San Francisco. It's happening here to us today. Quick story, I was making a presentation to a middle school. I had a detective with me. That is the best way that we can deliver that message, is together. While I was talking to those youth, a young girl, 12 or 13 years old, got up and she went over and started talking to the detective. And I was finishing making my presentation. That girl had spoken to the detective. He came to me at the end of the presentation. He said, "Do you know what she told me?" I said, "I have no idea." He said, "She told me she's on the internet with a man in Texas who's driving to Idaho to meet her." Wow. It is happening here. It's happening in Twin Falls. It's happening in Rupert. It's happening in Gooding. It's happening in every community in the state. And what we have to do is get our parents armed with the tools necessary to help their children be safe.
And talk to me about that. Maybe, Sam, you can help out with this, or all of you who are parents in general. But how do you bring up this subject? What do you say to your child to make them understand that, number one, this is a very real threat, and then number two, how in the world they can help battle this or seek help?
You know, one of the things that I would say with parents is to not be overreactive to what you think you might hear before you even start the conversation, because your teenager, your kid feels that. And so typically I watch a parent who will either turn a blind eye to it, or they will jump over the very first thing. So opening up an actual line of communication where the parent actually starts, just, hey, tell me what's going on with this. Noticed on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And actually entering the conversation at the teen's level is what we recommend to parents to begin with.
And Danielle, there are tools available to the parent, and without a doubt, the parent is the major prophylactic against this problem. Parenting is everything to prevent this. Otherwise, they're wild kids. The hormones are raging, and they're going to go for it. So one of the things you can do, one way that I see predators traveling around the internet is internet gaming, like Minecraft or World of Warcraft and so forth, because you have an avatar. You have this virtual identity dancing about in these different scenes and scenarios. Well, one thing you want to do is create your own and show up every now and then. And you would believe how different the attitude changes between the players when you're online, they don't know you're online, and then you present yourself as the avatar. That's an awesome thing for parents to do. Second is on their Facebook's account, as Sam noted, is you must turn on the parental controls, and you must be the administrator and the only administrator of the account, and have all emails and all interactions that are going on with that Facebook account go to your account. That's really big. And there is some more. Like there is a free site on the internet called opendns.com. You go to OpenDNS, and for free, you open an account, you put in your username and your password, and your outside IP address, which is easily gotten. You can call KRS Systems. I'll show you how to do it for free. 420-4357. That's for all help for those that like to play with letters. Anyway, what you put in a couple of settings here in this internet deal, and like I say, I'll help you for free to do it. And then you have the ability to change abilities to go to a ton of categories: academic fraud, alcohol, blogs, sexting, nudity, whatever. And so you can filter what content's coming through the computer or not, and the computer that the child should be doing homework on and is interacting with. Should never be in the bedroom, should always be in an open family area.
Okay, great tips, and good plug also, Owen. And let's talk to Detective Redner some more. We don't want to use a scare tactic here, but we do want people to know how real the threat is. Just tell us about some examples, if you could, of issues that you've worked on.
I've had cases right now that have taken me to North Carolina, not me physically, but victims and predators, North Carolina, California, Texas, New York, South Dakota, North Dakota. I guess I could keep going on and on and on. It's going to be pervasive. It's nonstop. It's 24/7. I have one case I'm working right now that has brought me to the Philippines. We've worked 2 cases this year in southern Idaho alone that has involved Interpol and several other foreign countries where the child pornography, the sexting, and the child predators are getting involved right here in southern Idaho. And the scary part is, as Mr. Attorney General mentioned, that girl was talking about someone driving up from Texas to meet her, right in the middle of him meeting with this group. And it's happening more and more frequently than anyone will ever know. And Sam brought up a great point for the parents. Try not to overreact. Try and take it in stride, and maybe remember some of the things that you've done in your youth and how you expected or wanted your parents to respond. The parents are the front line, and Owen had some great tips too about never in the bedroom alone. Have your child turn in their phone, their laptop every night to you. Sadly, I think also bringing your home computers or your smartphones to a professional to have them examined. I've had several cases where children as young as 12 years old have partitioned the hard drives, where the parents will never know what they are doing online unless they are a little bit more forensically savvy than the average parent. Also, I've run into almost every investigation involving children. Mom and Dad look at my Facebook account every night. but they're not going to myvampirefreak.com site and looking on there. Or the child has a site with their email their parents know, and then they just change a couple of letters and numbers for their friends.
And I know, Detective Rudner, you and Owen are obviously heavily armed in fighting this battle because you are both, I guess, up to date and knowing a lot of this technology stuff. But to the everyday parent who doesn't have the resources or the knowledge of the internet in general, how can they help themselves?
Let me jump in. A couple things they could do is we have free copies of Protect Teens DVD. Sit down with your children and watch it. And require them to be there. One of the other things that appears on this DVD is called a contract for internet safety. That is that mom and dad agree to do certain things for their child, and the children agree to also meet within certain safety parameters. Everybody signs that. Post that next to your computer. Stick it with your smartphone. That gives everybody the set of guidelines and set out the rules and follow those rules. But everybody understands at that point. This program that we've designed is not intended to insert government into your family. Instead, what it's designed to do is wrap government around your family, arming you with the tools necessary to protect your children. And when I was a kid, and I grew up here, you know, our vision of the predator was the guy in the trench coat down by the street corner, you know, standing under the tree next to the park. That may not have been an accurate depiction, but that's what we thought. But that's not the world in which our children live. It is a much more dangerous world. And the folks out there are fishing for your children, they're grooming your children, and it's a numbers game to them. That is, if I can groom a certain number of children, I can identify which ones I can abuse and which I can't. I get rid of those I can't. I concentrate and I groom those that I can, and that's how I choose my victims.
And send it back over to you, Attorney General. How many teens, or we have to talk about the success stories too, or do you have any specific examples of people who have been helped through this program?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have to mention our Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which you serve on. It actually operates out of my office. Jim Carell from my office is the director of that program. We have saved 5 children in this state, at least 5 children in this state, through the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Just one, it's a rather graphic example, but an individual in a community in the central part of Idaho. You know, we show up, we've got a search warrant, we do all of the things we've got to do, and he had thousands of images, hundreds of images, including images of him sexually abusing his own daughter. We were able to bring criminal charges. Ultimately, he committed suicide, but we were able to help his daughter by providing her counseling and the other things that she needed. Now, we know in this business, we know how to do the investigation, we know how to do prosecution, we know how to do incarceration. What we don't do very well is we don't deal well with those victims. We don't put their lives back together. They suffer a lifetime of anguish. That's why this program is so important. Its intent is to prevent that child from becoming a victim in the first place, and we don't have to fix all the rest of the problems that go along with it.
And as you guys have educated yourselves more and more about this issue, what's the most shocking thing that each of you have learned as you're learning more about it?
Well, that's a really good question.
It's okay, we don't have to go in order.
Well, I'll jump in. The most shocking thing I learned about it is that mom and dad don't have an idea of what's going on. That, with all due respect to parents, parents don't have a clue what their kids are out there doing on the internet. Your children already know all this stuff. It's every day to them. But moms and dads don't know what's going on. What do moms and dads have? They have that life experience that can teach them, that they understand what those dangers are. That's what needs to be shared with your children.
I think what I've learned is just how heartbreaking it is for the parents when they find out that their 10 to 14-year-old child is suffering horribly at the hands of predators and bullies online, and just how these children can keep secrets from from their friends, from their family members, from teachers, from coaches, from mentors, and they will endure that pain without saying a word about it. And then to come to a parent and have to explain that to them, it's a very emotional roller coaster ride to be on for everyone.
I think the thing that I've learned the most, and I deal mostly with kid-to-kid type relations, and certainly the bullying aspect of, it's interesting, with all the technology we have, we've lost our ability to communicate. We will write things we would never actually say to another human being. And our kids, as a result of that, the damage that they're causing each other, even in what used to be normal junior high or high school issues, now get blown into much bigger things that actually involve the legal process and other sorts of things. So.
And what's been most shocking to you, Owen?
These guys. I mean, the story about the guy driving up from Texas is, just blew me away there. I kind of, really? Is that one of the 4 you got?
That is one of the children.
Yeah.
That's not one of the 5 children I told you about. That's just another incident, just purely from the Protect Teens program. I actually can give you 4 or 5 more stories just like that of the Protect Teens program, even in our own area, in this area, where we have been able to intercede on behalf of children. Those are not isolated stories.
Mm-hmm. In the 15 years that we've been seeing this, the company's older, but the internet is about 15 years really. I only had one child porn case come through my office that we identified, and that just went directly to the FBI, and that was it, and that was 8 years ago. What I see is more adult on adult stuff, and you know, the wife bringing it in, his husband doing this and that, or vice versa. But I haven't seen this child abuse, so I imagine the parents are doing a pretty good job here in Twin.
I've had cases, everything from storage wars to child care providers to family members to complete strangers. It runs the gamut. There's no way you're going to look at any one person and say they're a child predator.
And let me jump into the children who are the focus of this range in all ages. We're trying to communicate with 11 to 14, 18-year-old group, but it can definitely be younger, and it is both boys and girls. Boys are just as much at risk as girls. Don't think for a moment that this is a gender-biased issue. It is not. Both of them are victims, and perpetrators are of both genders as well. So this is a very serious issue, and it's things that parents really need to take into their own hands.
So much of the stuff that kids text to each other or post on Facebook or whatever to each other, a lot of it is so fear-based, and that can be alleviated by a parent who will walk in and provide a safe place for that kid. But it begins with the parent.
Now, on the other side of things, what if you find out that your son or daughter is the bully? Any idea of what you would do in that case?
You know, I'm sure there's some other stuff that we could get to, but even in that case, we all know that the bully on the playground used to be, that was the kid that was the most scared. Didn't want to handle that, so they would project that off. And it's the same thing now, even with all the cyberbullying stuff. It's still fear-based. So if I've discovered my child was that, I would still want to open up the communication, because there's something not happening, something they're not getting from me in that respect, in that relationship, that's creating this environment for them in their head.
What I was going to say was, for the parent, don't be afraid to involve your local law enforcement. If you live in Gooding, if you live in Jerome, what they will do is get a hold of the Attorney General's office, or they will get a hold of me. I'm on a federal grant, so I work a lot of cases in southern Idaho. And I have to tip my hat to those other law enforcement agencies that have called and said, we have this going on, we're not sure what to do. And so far, I think we've worked exceptionally well together, and I look forward to continue doing that for the rest of the grant, and maybe even beyond that, if just to consult.
Now, as a parent, if you find out this is going on, when is the time that you do want to contact your local law enforcement agency? How much is too much, and when should you get the police or someone else involved?
Well, I will tell you that that's a question when you sit down as a parent and find out that there's a problem and your child is a victim. I don't think the detective here would mind a call at all for whatever, however minimal you think that might be. kind of get a grasp of what kind of things we're doing in the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, we have the ability to track known pornographic images of children that are trafficking on computers in the state. At one given moment, we had 1,000 computers in Idaho who were trafficking known pornographic images of children. Now think about what those images are. Those are photographs of crime scenes. Those are children who are being sexually abused, and crimes are being committed against those children. That happens not just in that one instant, but it can happen for a lifetime as that child's image repeats itself across the internet year after year, day after day. We are re-victimizing those children. It's something that we need to be aware of, and we are applying the resources. Certainly call on law enforcement, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, as well as the national hotline. We get those tips, the cyber tip line, all the time. We run those through our task force. It is federal and state and local law enforcement and prosecutorial agencies all working together for one thing, and that is to protect your children.
And I know one thing we've talked about during this program is the evolution of technology, and then of course of cyber predators, bullies, etc. Oh, and maybe you can help us out with this. The future of technology, how are we going to continue to face more battles with technology?
It's going to become more prevalent. You know, your refrigerator is going to be an internet device soon. So you just have to be very careful of what information you provide to the cloud up there. You don't provide Social Security numbers, you don't supply your home address, you don't supply your real name, and you keep virtual friends virtual. You never ever agree to meet somebody that you've only met online, ever. And they're going to become more and more prevalent. Soon our cars are going to be a mobile device. No, not just for driving around mobile, it's a mobile device. You're going to be able to turn your lights on at your house from your car. You're going to be able to order dinner from your car without using a cell phone. You're going to be able to know where you're going. It's going to be your internet device. So it's going to become more and more prevalent, so parents and children have to be more and more aware of what they can supply to the internet and what they got to keep private.
And on that note, also, we have to step up the way we fight this crime. Attorney General and Detective, how do you guys have plans or looking into the future? What is the plan to continue to fight this?
Well, part of it is the function of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. It comes with federal money, but also local money. It is the combined efforts of a variety of agencies. As I said, all federal, state, local agencies are participating. It is the unified effort. It comes in two kind of big flavors. One of it is educational, and that's what the Protect Teens part of this is all about, is arming parents and children with the tools necessary to keep them safe. The second half of that is our prosecutorial activities. Of course, I'm not going to talk about that in detail because we need to maintain our ability to do that, but technology is always changing. The last Internet Crimes Against training session I spoke at was Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, Tuesday morning. No, it was Wednesday morning. I can't remember what day it is. It was Wednesday morning that we had trainees there making certain that they are up to date on the latest and greatest and how we can approach that, the strategies that we employ. It's really important that we have the law enforcement function in place to do this job.
Well, I thank you all so much for coming on this program and for really teaming up together to help fight the crime, protect children, as you said, not just in the Magic Valley, but statewide, nationwide. It does take everyone from the parent to the officers to the Attorney General's office and so many more people in between. And we hope you enjoy the DVD. For more information, you can log on to KMVT.com to watch this program if you missed it in its entirety tonight. And we'll end the program with a word from our sponsors.